So the Necropolis League for Path of Exile launched about 2 weeks ago, and I've been playing it kind of non-stop since. And as someone who's like outside the Path of Exile content creation space, I kind of wanted to make my own, my first ever like build video for Path of Exile because I've been having a lot of fun with this build, and kind of wanted to share it with you guys. I got the idea for this build from watching a video by Connor Converse here on YouTube, also known as One Minute Left on Twitch. I'll leave links to his channels in the description, but he made a video going over the archmage support changes for the new league and showcasing some spells that would be great to use with the changed gem, like Lightning Conduit of the Heavens, Storm Call, and Ball Lightning of Orbiting. If you want to have a more detailed guide to the build that he was doing, I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. And I highly recommend checking out his videos over it, but I kind of wanted to give my own perspective as kind of a noob to Path of Exile. Those of you who are also kind of new to Path of Exile might appreciate this kind of thing. So how does this build work? Well, if you look at Archmage, it used to read supported skills gain added lightning damage equal to 75% of mana cost, if mana cost is not higher than the maximum you can spend. And the problem with that is that we needed to spend a fuck ton of mana in order to get the power from the support. So people would make builds around increasing the mana cost of the skills for it to gain damage. But now it reads, supported skills gain added lightning damage equal to 10 to 19% of unreserved maximum mana, 10 being the lowest level and 19 being max. Which means that all we have to do now is we just need to get a metric fuck ton of mana and reserve none of it in order to get huge damage. It makes it easier to build into and opens up so many possibilities, including using Mjolnir with our build. We can now use Archmage support with Mjolnir, as Mjolnir makes it so that skills get triggered by it cost no mana. It normally didn't work with the old gym because we needed to spend mana in order to gain damage, but now we don't have to do that, so we can get the maximum benefit from using Mjolnir. We have this 6 link here in our Ivory Tower with Cyclone and Castwell channeling support, right? And we're casting Lightning Warp with it. The Lightning Warp is mostly just to maneuver around the map. It also does lightning damage, which we scale with, and that's the spinning from Cyclone is actually how we proc spell procs from Mjolnir here, because it triggers a socketed lightning spell on hit with a 0.25 second cooldown, right? So all we have to do is spin around like this, which looks incredible. And then once we hit something, which we're not hitting anything right now, but once we do, it'll just delete things. Let me go into a map so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. We're just gonna do an excavation. Do I have a tropical island? It's a bit more straightforward, a bit more open. Yeah, this is the main damage aspect of the build. All we do is go in, spin around, warp into any packs, and they kind of just explode. And now you can see that we're hitting things. See all the orbs spinning around. It's kind of hard to see with the Harbinger here, but we have these orbs of lightning spinning around. Those are all procced from Mjolnir on hit from Cyclone. That's the main damage aspect, right? But isn't how we get enough damage for rares and bosses. Against rares and bosses for like high enough tier maps, which this is max rank, it kind of breezes through this rank of maps easily, which is awesome. But see, this rare mob wasn't dying very fast. In that case, we popped this skill called Arcane Cloak. What Arcane Cloak does is it spends 64% of our current mana and gives us a damage buff as well as a defensive buff. 75% of damage taken from hits is taken from the buff before your life or energy shield. So if I pop that real quick, you can see up here, we used around like 5,000 mana. That mana is now being used as a shield that kind of decreases over time, right? So the damage that we take would go to that first, or 75% of it would be. But it also gives us a massive damage bonus. I don't know exactly how much. Oh wait, there it is. It's 14% of mana spent by the skill's effect. So 14% of like 5,000 mana, right? You can see here, our Ball Lightning of Orbiting tooltip damage is only 14k. But as soon as we pop Arcane Cloak, it goes up to 54,000, right? But that's not just from the Arcane Cloak. In fact, Arcane Cloak works in conjunction with our Indigon that we have. Now, this item is not required for this build, but it does help us get insane damage, whereas If you don't have this, then the damage is pretty. It's still solid. You'll be able to farm T16s, but your bossing will be a bit slow. Which I will show some videos of me bossing without Indigon. It is possible. I did kill Gator of Worlds and Searing Exarch normal with them, or without the Indigon, and then I did Elder and Shaper with the Indigon. But what Indigon does is it increases the cost of skills after 200 total mana spent is recently has been triggered, right? But also gives us a stacking spell damage bonus for each 200 total mana you spent recently, up to 2000%. That's a massive damage bonus we can get. So if we take 200 total mana divided by like 5,500 or something, that's a lot of damage. The problem comes in with sustaining our other abilities because, like it says here, it increases the cost of all your skills for 200 total mana spent recently. So our Cyclone mana cost is normally 1. We can just spin forever without any problems, right? But as soon as we pop our King Cloak, it goes up to 17 mana now. It used to be 16. I guess it got some more damage somehow, but it costs 17 mana to upkeep that. So you'll notice if I pop that real quick and start spinning, our mana just drains constantly, right? And that's where the link here comes in handy. We have mana leech support. Now, mana leech will work with our cyclone. It works with attacks. So our cyclone will be leeching back mana for us. But there's a problem that I ran into while playing this build where I wasn't able to leech back enough mana to offset the cost of it. And it was just burning through all my mana because not only does the Cyclone mana cost go up, but also the Lightning Warp, which normally costs 21 mana. So we can use it without any problems here. It doesn't even like, you can barely see it taking on their mana pool, right? But as soon as we pop Arcane Cloak, it goes up to 484 mana. That's a lot more mana than you can normally keep up with. In fact, just with the mana leech support alone, you won't be able to. And that's why we also have this next link that comes in handy here, Battle Mage's Cry. This is a war cry, which you automatically trigger with call to arm support. This was added this patch, I believe. And it triggers every like 0.6 seconds or something like that. It's about every second for me, honestly. What that does is if we're near an enemy, it gives it a certain amount of power when it triggers, right? If we're near a unique enemy, it gives us 20 power. But it also makes increases and reductions to spell damage also apply to attacks at 25% of their value per 5 power, up to a maximum of 150%. That will make not only our other spells do a lot of damage, but it will make Cyclone do a bunch of damage, right? That's where this comes in handy, because as we increase the damage of Cyclone, spell damage that we have is being converted to attack damage. And this, with this, gives us a ton of spell damage. So now the damage of it's up to 14k, and that's without the buff from Battle Mage Cry. With Battle Mage Cry, it's it's hard. It's kind of hard to get both effects off and show you the tooltips, but I'm gonna try. Let's see if we can go into like a rare pack over somewhere. Okay, so we're gonna wait for it to shout. We're using this. Okay, shouted. It's up to like 50,000 now. It went up like twice as much. So that's where the Mana Leech plus Battle Mage Cry and Cyclone comes in handy, because now we're able to leech like almost 4% of like 50,000 damage, which is a lot of Mana Leech, and that helps sustain it. Personally, I could still not sustain it with single target damage. I was still spending way more than I could keep up with. Um, so what I had to do is I had to take this node over here. This kind of sucks because you have to spend 5 points for this. You have to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also get the mastery. The mastery is all we care about. The energy shield leech and spell damage and whatever is pretty nice, but what we really care about is this. Now, you can use one of the 3 masteries here. I tested 2 of them, and they both seem to function the same way, but I think the one I have currently selected helps me the most. So if you're struggling with keeping up mana leech with bosses and stuff, try this. 100% increased total recovery per second for mana. But you could also try the 10% instant leech. I noticed that the one I have right now was a bit more consistent, which is nice. But tooltip wise, in the path of building, the 25% increased recovery per second from leech seems to be better. I can show you here. Open this up real quick. Oh, nice, it already opened. Um, so in my tree, we now have the 25% increased, right? So it's showing that my Cyclone is currently leeching 2,000 mana per on hit rate. If I get rid of that, it goes down to 1,700. If I select 100%, it doesn't change for some reason. I don't really understand why this is like better for me, but it is somehow because in game it feels better. But if I do 10% is instant, it's about 2,000. So honestly, try all three of them. It's only cost like 1 point to respec it, so just try all three, see which one works better for you. Personally, I had more a consistent leech with this one for some reason. All right, but the reason why only the single target has been a problem with this build and not the multi-target is actually, let me show you real quick. When we get into the next part, you see when I pop our King Cloak and go into a pack of mobs, our mana just goes right back up. See that? No problems at all. And the reason for that is because we have a node on our passive tree, which is really handy. We take Thrill Killer, which not only gives us more maximum mana, which is more damage for the build, but it also recovers 2% of mana on kill. That's what makes this a powerhouse for speed farming maps, is that every time we kill something, we just get our mana back, and then we can offset the cost of Arcane Cloak plus Indigon, like, with nothing. It's with no investment at all. Just grab that node and you're set there. Um, So yeah, that's definitely useful. Now, if I can show you the boss damage, it's going to be kind of scuffed because this boss spawns a bunch of ads. So I won't really be able to show you the true problems with the leech. But later on, I'll show you a Searing Exarch kill before I solve the mana leech problem, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about probably with that. I did just solve the mana leech problem like last night, so... Alright, we're going to try to clear out all the ads first. And then when I pop our King Cloak, we spin on them. Okay, well, we kind of killed him like instantly, so it doesn't really matter. You can see there the mana was kind of staggered down, but it was still increasing slightly, and that's after I put in the point here. So that helped me keep my mana leech going higher than it was being spent. Now we got the basis for the build out of the way, though. Let's go over all of our items and our skill gem links, right? So we already covered that we're using Mjolnir in order to autocast Ball Lightning of Orbiting using Cyclone with all the other stuff. And obviously we're using Archmage with that, right? For the mana equals damage, basically. But you also have a second link here for a support gem that you want to use. I'm using Lightning Pen because it seems like the most damage right now. Ideally, I want to get Awakened Lightning Penetration, but it's kind of whatever. You don't have to use this though. You can use whatever the hell you want. Some people actually have been suggesting that slower projectile speed helps with the damage of Ball Lightning of Orbiting because it has a ton of projectile speed. What that does is that the balls move around really fast, but they also disappear really fast, right? So if you can slow down the projectiles, then they'll have more time to do their tick damage to the enemy, which will result in more damage. Yeah, it goes up like to like 2 million. So slower projectiles is a lot more than faster projectiles. In fact, let me see here. We got 10 to 13, 10 to 11. So it is better to have lightning penetration, but I am just trying to show you that slower projectiles does actually help with damage, having slower ones. Now this means that we could also take an anoint on the tree. Right now we're taking Primal Spirit for Strength, Int, and Maximum Mana. But some people were suggesting that you can go down here and grab Adjacent Animosity for your Anoint on your necklace. It reduces projectile speed, and also projectiles deal more damage to hits at the start of their movement, and less as they travel further. So it should increase your single target damage by getting this, I believe is what people are saying. So you can try that if your single target is lacking. Mine's not. Next, we have the Prism Guardian, which we are using to reserve our auras with life instead of mana. That's important because we want as much unreserved mana as possible. And so this lets us do a few things. One, we don't need to reserve the mana, right? Which lets us have more unreserved mana for archmage damage. Two, it enables low life because we don't have any life. I have 14 out of 2000. Low life enables us to grab pain attunement here, which gives us 30% more spell damage, which is multiplier when we're on low life. So that's just free damage right there. Then also, thirdly, it allows us to use an Eternal Blessing to get one more free aura. Now, the reason why it's free is if we read this here, Eternal Blessing support has no reservation, counts as a blessing skill. You can only have one aura on you from your blessing skills, and your non-blessing skills, which reserve mana, are disabled while you have an aura from a supported skill on you. Now, the thing is, we are reserving a bunch of auras, but we're not reserving them with mana, which is what this says here. We're reserving them with life. So that last line doesn't apply to any of the auras we have. And that way, we can just have a free grace, which gives us more evasion rating, which is awesome. You could probably also use determination if you just want armor, but I think it's nice to have both evasion and armor. Evens out your defenses a little bit. All right, nextly, since we're talking about these links, we can talk about the gloves. We're using Shaper's Touch. Shaper's Touch is just really nice for this build because it gives us bonuses to different stats based on our strength and int, which are two things that we are stacking like crazy, right? So increased energy shield per 10 strength, 2% increased evasion rating per 10 int. Then we also get 1 mana per 4 strength and accuracy rating for per 2 int. The accuracy rating helps proc Cyclone, which then procs the Mjolnir cast, right? And then, just having more mana, more ES is always helpful. And this build kind of revolves around stacking these two stats anyways. So this is a no-brainer. You definitely want to pick one of these up if you can. It's hard to find something that's better than these gloves at this point in the game. All right, in the Indigon, which we already covered what it does, but we have an arrogant support tied to our precision, so we can have another aura for precision going to our health instead of our mana. And then we have cast when damage taken with enfeeble, which is just kind of like a defensive cast. Whenever we get hit and take a certain amount of damage, this procs, which reduces damage dealt by enemies and reduces their accuracy rating as well. They're less likely to hit us. And then for the boots, we have increased duration support tied with our arcane cloak because we want to keep that buff going as much as possible. And then also Frostblink with arcane surge. Frostblinks, we don't use that often since we kind of teleport around without it, just with our main damage. But if you're caught in a bad situation, you can quickly blink out of it. It's really useful in Trials of Ascendancy. And then the other slots here, actually, let's go over Ivory Tower. The reason we use Ivory Tower is pretty obvious. We get maximum energy shield per 100 reserved life. We're reserving all of our life, so that's a ton of energy shield. It also gives you a bunch of mana. We regen 2% of our ES per second, which is huge. And then chaos damage is taken from mana before our life. This ties in with Coruscating Elixir as well. This flask gives us the ability for chaos damage to not bypass energy shield, which it normally does during its effect, and it removes all of our life on use, but we don't have any life, so it doesn't matter, right? So basically, these two things kind of tie together. Chaos damage we take is taken from mana first, and then when we pop this, it gives us a buff, and then that allows the chaos damage, if it removes all our mana for some reason, it'll start removing our energy shield instead of our life, so we keep ourselves alive basically. But you probably won't run into the situation where you're dying from it too much because you should have pretty high chaos resistance, and that'll kind of offset it. But definitely want to grab this for bossing and for certain types of enemies that have a lot of chaos damage and damage over time, especially. For the last few slots, the belt, the rings, and the amulet, the most important thing here is that you want to get as many of your attributes as possible from these. Find tier 1 strength, tier 1 int on most things if you can. Personally, I couldn't find int for a belt, but it's pretty easy to find a Stygian Vise with a lot of strength. So I have strength on ring, strength on belt, strength and int on this ring, strength and int on this amulet. And the reason for that is because we need to have a 412 strength for Mjolnir, which is kind of hard to get. It's very demanding. I was having problems getting to this point. I spent more of my currency on the accessories and the belt than I have on anything else besides Indigon. Indigon was the most expensive for like 9 divines. My accessories and belt and the gym, the jewel were like around 5 divines total. Everything else was around 5 divines as well. I don't know. It's it's about the same. I spent around like 20 divines on the full thing. But yeah, definitely the most demanding thing was the Indigon. But anyways, once you have your strength and int out of the way, once you have your attributes where you need them to be, then you can work on your resistances, try to cap them through this. You'll notice my fire res isn't capped. That's because we're using coruscating, which gives us 40% fire res during its effect and 5% maximum fire res as well. So we go up to 80% resistance maximum. And then after that, just try to get maximum mana. More mana equals more damage equals more survivability. And that's kind of what I took here. The nice thing about the build is that we don't need any maximum life, really, aside from enough to have a high level precision because this reserves a certain amount of life instead of mana. You will probably want to get a cluster jewel if you can. These aren't that expensive, so it's pretty nice. I managed to pick this one up for probably like 30 C or something. You definitely want scintillating idea, which gives you maximum mana. Anything with penetration with lightning damage is great as well. And then also this one here gives us lightning damage leech as ES. And then widespread destruction, because I was considering going Stormcall, and with Stormcall you want as much AoE as possible. Don't really need this, but I just wanted to test it out. And then with that, put in some nice jewels that you get. Try to find ones with maximum mana if you can. Now, if you're really rich, which is what I'm trying to go after next, but if you are really rich, you should use an Adorn jewel that has like at least 100% increased effect with a magic jewel with like 10% maximum mana. So that gets, obviously multiplied by the 100% increase. I don't have one because they're like 5 divines plus just for the Adorned. I don't have that much currency right now. I only have like 1 divine. But yeah, on the tree, we also, 2 things to take into consideration here is that we're using elemental overload. So we don't rely on critical strike multiplier damage. We just want crit in order to proc this on our ball lightning of orbiting mostly, which that's why we run zealotry from our auras. Zealotry will give us spell crit chance and more spell damage, and then that'll help us proc elemental overload for 40% more damage, or elemental damage I should say. And then it also has a chance to create consecrated ground on hitting a rare or unique enemy, which is for bossing, right? When that happens, consecrated ground gives you life regen. We don't have any life. That's why we take Zealot's Oath here. Life regen is applied to energy shield instead. So we're regenning our ES and we're leeching energy shield through various means like this node and this node over here. Which is really nice sustain. We are using discipline as an aura. Now, we are going to be using the actual discipline. Gives us more energy shield. But we also use Vol discipline. When you notice that your energy shield is going way too low, pop Vol discipline and it'll start recharging even during battle, which is why we have that. It's like an emergency heal, but instead of a heal, it just recharges your energy shield. And then obviously we want Wrath because that's just more spell lightning damage. And we do lightning damage. Now that's about it for the build though. Tell me what you think in the comments. Let me know if you like the idea for the build and if I missed anything that you'd like me to go over. I'm going to have some clips at the end of the video of me going and slaying Searing Exarch. Yeah, if you haven't tried a mana stack build yet, now is the best league to do it with archmage support changes. And honestly, if a noob like me could do it, then I know you guys can too. All right, enjoy. Later. All right, well, here goes Ball Lightning of Orbiting Archmage. with the supposedly fixed single target mana leech. Hopefully. I think I finally fixed it. Let's find out. Hopefully this time I don't get annihilated by him walking back into the portal.
Your absurd defiance ends here, hatchling.
Well, not really.
Disintegration.
I think it's because I'm taking damage. It was going to my mana. Just gonna wait a sec, go back in. Yeah, okay, it's more manageable now. It's just when I'm taking a lot of damage, it goes to my mana, which keeps it from leeching. But if I have the war cry buff going, then I can manage it because I have enough damage. Yeah, we already got him down to like halfway. That's good. Woo! That was a good one. That was a really good one. Thank you, Maven. Yeah, that kind of sucks because of the whoa, whoa, whoa. Kind of sucks because of the ground effects. Alright, easy. Oh, come on, he teleported on me? Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I don't have the warp cry buff going right now. Only problem with automating it with Call to Arms is that it sometimes doesn't trigger when I need it the most. Oh, fuck me. What is that pathing? Actual bullet hell bullshit, dude. What the fuck? I'm probably dead. There's too many. Oh my god. If I had gone down. If I had just gone down there, it would have been fine. Oh, did I accidentally level up precision too much again? Classic. I did it again, dude. Standing right on top of the degens. Fine, we should be able to kill him. Pull. I was a bit scuffed, but we got him. So yeah, I think with the single target mana leech, the problem is that you need to make sure that the war cry has triggered on the boss before you start spinning, or before you pop Arcane Cloak. I have to wait for the shout, then pop Arcane Cloak, because then my Cyclone will be doing like 3 times more damage. That was the problem. I didn't corrupt. Wait, no, I did corrupt it, didn't I? Never mind, I'm stupid. I corrupted it. We're good. And boss is dead. Holy shit, man.